The expenses section on the system can be found by placing your mouse over the expenses icon at the top of the page and clicking on expenses. When you arrive at the expenses section, you'll be taken to the current year. To change years, click on the previous or next buttons shown here, or select the year you would like to view from the calendar and click on the apply button. Within this section, you will see the expense month for each month of the year, January through to December. If expenses have already been created for that month, you will see the amount of the expenses, an edit icon, a print icon, and a delete icon. If you have not yet created expenses for that month, you will see an add icon. Click on the add icon to create the expenses for that month. We're going to click on the edit icon and edit the January expenses. At the top of the expenses section, for the selected month, you will see an expense total for the month. This is broken down from food and drink, vehicle expenses, household expenses, and additional expenses. Before you create your expenses, you must set up your general settings. These can be found by placing your mouse over the accounts icon and clicking on General Setup. Within this section, you will set up the food and drink costs that you will claim back for each child that has meals within your setting. Do this before creating your monthly expenses or creating invoices for the children. Watch the help video within that section to learn more about the food and drink expenses. In addition, the vehicle expenses and how much you claim back, i.e., pence per mile, or a percentage of your running costs, is also set up within the General Setup page. Ensure you set this up as well prior to creating expenses on the system. It is also highly recommended that you set up your recurring expenses. This can be done by placing your mouse over the expenses icon and clicking on recurring expenses. Setting up your recurring expenses will save you a lot of time in creating your monthly expenses each month. Here, we can see the food and drink expenses. This shows all the total food and drink expenses for each child who attended your setting for the current month and was allocated at least one meal. These calculations, based on the figures you entered when you set up your meal costs, within the General Settings section. The table below shows the number of meals each child ate and the total cost for those meals. The grand total of all the meals for all the children is shown below, with your overall expenses for the month. Here we can see the room name and the child's first and last name. We can see the total meal costs for Harry Johnson was £264. If we click on the down arrow, shown here, you will see a total breakdown of each meal, breakfast, AM snack, lunch, PM snack, and dinner, that you can claim back for. You can also click on the edit icon to edit the invoice for the current month. Here for Lana Johnson, you can see she has a different icon, Manage Lana Johnson's Invoices, for the month. This is because Lana's invoices are created on a weekly basis, and there are multiple invoices for you to view and edit, if necessary. And finally, for Hugo Sanderson, we can see he has the setup icon. This is because Hugo has not yet been set up on the system. Click on that icon to be taken to edit Hugo's settings for his invoices. And here we can see, at the bottom of the food and drink section, we have the total number of each of the meals that you are claiming back for the month, with a total food and drink expense of £616. Here we can see, we have a food and drink recalculation. This section is used when you created your expenses prior to creating all of the invoices for the children. It's important to always create your expenses after you have created all the children's invoices for the month. If you did not do this, you would need to click on the Recalculate button, and then on the Update Data button, to pull in the data from the newly created children's invoices. The Vehicle Expenses section shows the total number of business miles that you travelled, and you are claiming this at 45 pence per mile. 156 miles, at 45 pence a mile, equals a total vehicle expense of £70.20. As stated previously, you set up how you claim your vehicle expenses within the Accounts General Setup section. Do this before creating your expenses for any month. Beneath this will be your household expenses. When you set up your general account settings, you stipulated a set amount of hours a week that you work. This was set up between 1 and 40 hours a week. The maximum number of hours you can select is 40, and this maximum number of hours is set by the HMRC. You cannot enter more than 40 hours a week, even if you work more hours than this. When you enter this number of hours, the system will calculate your gas, electricity, water, council tax, and rent costs for the month. At 40 hours per week, this is calculated at 33% for gas and electricity, and 10% for water, council tax, and rent. If you only work 20 hours per week, this figure would be prorated, claiming 16.5% and 5%. If you set up your recurring expenses, this information will automatically be pulled through from that section each month. Then if adjustments are needed, you can make the adjustments on this page. Within the additional expenses sections, you can enter the costs of your expenses for the month. Again, if you set up your recurring expenses, these recurring expenses will be pulled through each month and displayed within the month's expenses. Here we can see we have a number of items, the 10th of January, various items, £84.40. Here we can see assistant wages, telephone internet, and paper supplies. You can also upload a receipt. Click on the upload receipt icon, shown here, and once uploaded, you can view the receipt within your expenses. To add a new item, simply click on the relative Add button to add a new expense to that section, for example, equipment. Select the date, enter a description, and enter the cost of the item. You can repeat this process for each section within your expenses. Once you have completed your expenses, scroll to the bottom of the page and click on the Save button. You will then be taken back to the expenses section for the current year. Within the System Bulk Download section, you can download, in bulk, all your expenses for any year or month. This includes downloading the receipts that were attached to your expenses. To do this, place your mouse over the system icon and click on Bulk Download. Here we can see the expenses section, and we can download the expenses for the years that we have created expenses for. Watch the help video on this page for more information about bulk document download on the system.